phase in the process to make sure that we do have the participation. I'm thinking particularly for sort of mid-tier companies, mid-tier banks, smaller banks, you know, the ones who don't necessarily have the resources to participate in all of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a big problem, and I think current solutions are not satisfying because the onboarding is a drag. We are trying to solve this in the Marco Polo network elegantly by allowing smaller banks to allow with a restricted license to join the network easily. And the same, the network will also become accessible for SMEs in a very quick onboarding scenario going forward. However, this is tricky to set up and we are still working on it, but we are confident that we have this available and commercially ready next year. And basically, the corporates don't pay for it. They get free access. They pay transaction fees. So from a commercial scenario, I think this is a very good approach because it removes the high barriers to join the club and to become part of it. You obviously have to figure out the legal consequences of it and the legal scenarios that need to be sorted out, even if it's a click-through online scenario, but that can be done, and we are working on it. So I'm optimistic that the industry at large and some of the networks and tech providers like ourselves will figure this out in a way that will allow also medium and smaller sized banks and corporates to join the network in a very efficient way. And the advantage they have, you connect once to connect to many. So you don't have to connect to 15 or 20 things or with each individual counterparty. You only connect to once, and then you can transact with anybody else that is onboarded on the network. And ultimately that will become bigger and bigger and broader, and it will become a standard on its own in the industry.
But connect once.
Jane, sorry, go on, Hans.
I like that connect once to connect to many thing that Danny said. This is exactly what needs to happen and will make trade a lot more inclusive, but it requires a lot of communal layer, a lot of standardization together. Then connect once, connect to many will happen and make trade a lot more inclusive for the many, because I will just hook up my trade system to any other trade system or it will happen automatically.
Sorry. I mean, this area of standardization is clearly an important area, isn't it? I mean, while you're speaking, Hans, I mean, what would you say, what place will we be, say, in 5 years' time? Do you think we will be looking at a sort of a 30% standardized system or 20%, 10% wholly standardized? How fast can this happen, do you think, realistically?
Well, I'm very careful giving numbers on dates. And Danny is smiling and he knows why. It's very, very dangerous to give dates. However, I see a curve that will at some point in time have a turning point, and then it becomes really steep. I just don't know when that turning point will be, but I can tell that all those who believe in paper will be left behind and look like being in arrears. And don't ask me really when that is. It could be in 5 years, it could be in 3 years. And COVID, as much as it was a misery for many people and many companies, has been a blessing for digitalization. And it gave all people a heads up and made them get up together. So COVID may have moved that point, that turning point, very, very much closer to now. But I still can't say when it will be. If it's in 3 years' time, if it's in 5 years, if it's in 7, don't know. Don't dare saying it.
Very diplomatic. So we won't put you on the hook then for kind of naming a time frame. It's an interesting point.